mypy, base class has no attribute X, how to type hint in base class. I recently discovered mypy and I want my code to be type checked with it. I have a connector base class. And I have several subclasses, they are all connectors, but of different types. When I use these objects, I normally put them in a list. Now let's say I want to write a function to return all the short names of all the connectors, as a list. I'd write something like that. When I do that, mypy complains. Which is true, the base class connector doesn't have this attribute, only the subclasses. But all connector subclasses will have this attribute. How should I correct that? I can use a class attribute here since all my subclasses will need their own short underscore name attribute. Should I use a union in the type hinting of my get underscore names function? In my real life situation, there are much more than 2 types of connectors, and the user of my API could add his own. I'm also not sure I could write a base underscore init underscore function and override it in the subclasses, because the subclasses all have a different init.
You'd add that attribute to the base type, you don't need to give it a value. This uses Python 3.6's variable annotation syntax, which is new in Python 3.6 or newer. It defines the type of an instance attribute, not a class attribute, for which there is a separate syntax. You can use a comment otherwise, at which point you do have to give the attribute an initial value, and is a class attribute.
If you are using Python 3.6 or later, then should work. This doesn't actually exist in the namespace, but mypy will find it. See this URL. Another option is to do